The 48 hours has elapsed. Tomorrow it'll make it 72 hours, and that'll be it. And then you'll see some litigation, I'm sure, between these parties. Now, we had a chance to talk to both Paulie Dangerously and his attorney, Bruce Gold, directly after the press conference. And we had some great comments from them, and we got a little bit more specific about some of these events that have been taking place. Let's go to that now. The press conference with Paulie Dangerously and his attorney, Bruce Gold. And Paulie, first of all, was a very emotional Paulie Dangerously that just spoke to an assembly of wrestling media and other media here at the China Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And
that's you're on a roll today, ain't you?
Yeah, pretty much. But, you know, as we mentioned during the press conference, you've now given WCW 72 hours as of right now to respond to you.
That's about 24 hours after the show will air.
Yeah, about 24 hours. Do you feel that they're going to respond over that 72-hour period?
I would say, in my opinion, it would be, it's just my opinion now. Okay, nobody else's. It's an assessment of the situation. It's an analytical viewpoint that it would be a good business maneuver for them to do so. Because, like I said, they have 72 hours from now, just 24 hours after this show airs. That's 3 weeks since I've been suspended. They don't want to deal with me. If their only response to all this is grammar in a legal letter, then come tomorrow, if there's not a proper response or review or hearing or investigation or contact or discussion, then I'm off the record again. I'm going to the Knicks games. I'm watching LT play football. I'm hanging out at the China Club, and all discussions will be held by my attorney, Bruce Gold.
And they will have to, at some point, respond to Paul and to me at that juncture. They'll really be given no choice, and it won't be on a friendly basis as it can be at this point. It will be through legal papers.
Okay, now you've mentioned grammar several times in your letter that you received from World Championship Wrestling.
Bruce received it, yeah.
Bruce received from World Championship Wrestling. Now, what was the grammar that they were referring to? Was it in an office meeting with Mr. Hurd? Was it something you said on the air?
This was a response to a letter that I had written to WCW, and rather than a straight denial, they decided to comment on my literary style. I thought that was rather cute, since my wife is an English teacher and she checks my grammar before anything goes out. I will say that I was somewhat offended by the condescending nature of the letter, and let it go at that. I've already spent my venom. The grammar of legal documents is a lot easier to deal with.
I find it very amusing because it's stated on my show on the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, you know, Paulie didn't say this, Eddie Gilbert said it, that a lot of the things they do in that office is personal. Now, not business, so it seems as though maybe they're doing a personal attack on you and the grammar, which is not even a business standpoint. That really, it doesn't surprise me, but it just is in conjunction with what I've heard from various people in the wrestling business, that everything they do in that office is personal. That had really, in my opinion, nothing to do with the situation at all, and it just is in tune with everything they've done revolving the situation, in my opinion.
Well, John, that's your analysis of it, and we'll let it go at that. I don't want to be in a position where I'm throwing a match into oily waters on Paul's behalf. Really, my job at this point is to convince WCW to be reasonable and to speak reasonably man-to-man with Paul, so we can get it resolved quickly and at little cost to anybody, because this type of a matter can get very expensive very quickly.
Well, it's just something that the company is going to have to address. And, Paulie, you certainly had your show of support here, receiving a jersey from Lawrence Taylor, a gold record from Andrew Dice Clay, and even Lisa Sliwa, who you've talked about on Pro Wrestling New York a number of times. They all came out here either with a representative or Lisa herself to show her support and a guardian angel support for your plight right now. That must make you feel good as far as all these people now coming to your support and coming to wish you well.
Look, Pro Wrestling New York became a success because we customized it, we tailor-made it for New York. Everything about that show was about New York. We did not discuss Joe Montana. We discussed Lawrence Taylor. We did not discuss Dianne Feinstein. We discussed Ed Koch, Mayor Dinkins, Governor Cuomo. I never talked about George Bush. I talked about Bill Bradley. This is a New York show for New Yorkers, for New Jersey people, for Connecticut people, despite what I think of New Jersey. And whether the Sliwas like what I say or not, this promotes tourism here. This is good for business in New York. This is a New York show. This is a New York type of thing. And the one thing you have to say about New Yorkers, and this is why so many people in the other 47 states besides New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut hate Paulie Dangerously so much, is New Yorkers will fight each other to the bitter end, but when somebody from the outside attacks a New Yorker, we unite together. And it looks to me like a bunch of New Yorkers. Lawrence Taylor, I know he's from the South, but he's adopted this as his home because he now can afford to live in the North where life is a lot better. And Lisa Sliwa, who's from Illinois, and now lives in New York because life is better. And Dice Clay, who really has made Brooklyn what his life is all about, even though he's hanging out in L.A. now and couldn't make it because I understand he's involved in a new record thing, and he sent over the gold record, which is most flattering. And the message, he knows what it feels like. I'm sure he does. It's just typical of New Yorkers, you know. We stick together, which is why so many other people out there hate New Yorkers, because we stick together when we're attacked from the outside.
It would appear to me that WCW really is cutting their own throat. They acquired a time slot on WPIX, and I'm sure moving over to WCBS, partially because they have localized this particular wrestling show. Now with them not having a New York flavor to it and having someone from Oklahoma, Jim Ross, who's an excellent wrestling announcer, perhaps the best in the business, not really having that type of New York flavor. When a New York viewer watches the Pro Wrestling New York show and hears about Florida State and Oklahoma and football from that region and not talking about New York issues, it may tend, in my opinion, to decrease those ratings pretty quickly. Do you have any comment as far as...
The numbers will tell the story, John.
Yeah, the numbers will tell the story, exactly.
You know, the numbers are going to tell the story, and to me, you know, I am not saying Pro Wrestling New York cannot be done without me. I'm insulted as a New Yorker that they haven't contacted anybody. Not John Arezzi, not Freddie Blassie, not Lou Albano, not Dice Clay, not Curtis Lewa, not Howard Stern, nobody. They have contacted nobody from this region to be involved in that show, to have input within that program. As far as I know, they have not done that. If they've done it, it's unbeknownst to me. And I would assume that if they would do something like that, that they would at least publicize it. Because they'd want New Yorkers to know that we're still going to keep a local flavor on the show. And from what I can ascertain, they're not. And as a New Yorker, that bothers me. That's why I'm so damn proud of that show, John, is because it was for New York. And, you know, Jersey and Connecticut, you know, except what's in Jersey but toxic waste dumps.
True. Reading the Pro Wrestling Torch, the current issue that came out, comments were made by Jerry Lawler. I understand you cannot comment on him personally regarding that Paulie Dangerously had no business being in the wrestling business, that you added nothing to wrestling. Do you love pro wrestling, Paulie?
Yes, I love pro wrestling. Yes, I respect pro wrestling. John, I've been on the record, and Jim Ross and I have argued about this at Thanksgiving Thunder last year. When I made the comment to him, you have never been in the ring, you have never been knocked down, you don't know what it's like, therefore, how can you pass judgments on the wrestlers? I've been in the ring, I've had my knees blown out, I've had my jaw dislocated, I've had my shoulder separated, I have had stitches put in my head, I have had assorted ankle injuries on my left ankle. I've broken I've broken 4 ribs, a total of 6 rib injuries. You know, like I broke a couple of them twice. I've had 8 fingers broken. I've had an elbow that had to be drained 4 times within 2 weeks. You know, I mean, I'm not saying, you know, and that, I was just a manager. Now imagine what a wrestler goes through. I have said on the record that I'm not big enough to be a wrestler. I'm not bad enough to be a wrestler. I admire what these guys do. I wish that I had the physical ability to do what these athletes do each and every night. And even if I did have the physical ability, I don't have the chutzpah, for lack of a better term, or inappropriate term, to do that particular job. I don't have it. And it takes a tremendous individual and a very unique individual to do that particular job. I don't have it in me to do it. I admire those who do. And anybody that could ever make the judgment after I've dedicated 13 years of my life with magazines, photography, and fan clubs, and then 5 years being known as Paulie Dangerously, anybody that can pass a judgment that I don't respect this business, I don't love this business, or that I haven't contributed to this business, I would say, without naming names or even pointing to any particular case, that I would suggest that person come to grip that this is 1991, because whoever would make such a judgment does not comprehend the evolution of this industry.
Well, the business has certainly changed since you first started following it. I think you were 13 years of age, and myself 14, with the Fred Blassie fan club, where press conferences like this would be unheard of. It would never happen back in the stone ages of pro wrestling. The business has changed, and the majority of listeners to my program that you're reinstated to World Championship Wrestling and continue to entertain the fans around the country.
John, I'm not even asking for a reinstatement. I'm asking for simply for the facts to be looked at, just to be glanced at, just to be acknowledged. You know, I'm not sitting here saying reinstate me, you know. Look at the facts. If you still think that I don't deserve to come back on the air, well, that's your decision. And that's a decision that whomever makes those decisions is entitled to make. But just look at the facts. Acknowledge that there are facts out there. Acknowledge that this is still alive and well, that this is still a burning issue. I'm 26 years old, and I'm not being allowed to do the job that I've been employed to do, that I have worked all my life. I've worked all my life to achieve this position. And Dennis Miller, who used to be on Saturday Night Live, said a joke Monday night when I was talking to him about this, kind of candidly, because he's been, you know, as an entertainer in similar, but it's different businesses, but you know what I'm saying. And I said, you know, it distresses me that I've worked 13 years of my life to get where I am. He goes, oh, you mean sitting at home unemployed? You know, and that distresses me that I'm sitting at home after 13 years, not being able to do the job which I am, in my opinion, qualified to do. I want the opportunity to do it. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not even asking for the opportunity to do my job. I'm asking for someone to acknowledge the facts. Just say, okay, we've looked at them. We haven't changed our mind. Okay, fine. At least look at them. Tell me that you've looked at them. Tell me. Don't tell me about grammar in a lawyer's letter. The hell does that have to do with anything? Acknowledge the fact that this exists. We're not on television saying this promotion doesn't exist. We're the only promotion in the world. This is real life, man. I'm sitting at home not being able to do my job. I want to do my job. I want the opportunity to do my job. I want to at least know that somebody has looked at the facts and made a judgment on them. That's all I ask for. Give me a review.
Okay, Paulie, listen, thanks a lot for your time today. And Bruce, thank you very much. And I wish you guys success with this fight. And hopefully things will work out for both of you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Paulie.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a lot to absorb right there. John, this is my big question.
Mm-hmm.
The aftermath of all this.
Yeah.
My memory of it is a little fuzzy because of people changing jobs and whatnot. How was all this resolved in the end for the fans who might not know?
Paulie threatened them with a 72-hour notice, and it was resolved, and he was back on television. And I can't speak with 100% accuracy, but I think he also got some sort of retribution for the troubles that were put in and put upon him. So, but he was back on TV shortly thereafter.
Amazing. And Eddie, of course.
Yeah, Eddie's life spiraled in ways that would eventually lead to his unfortunate demise.